Hello and welcome back at the FinetLink channel. You have to know that as an IT, you won't just be building or maintaining networks in your career, but you also will be responsible for the security of your network. Because today the network architects and administrator security is not an afterthought. It is a top priority for them. And many people in IT now work exclusively in the area of the network security, which means that we have to understand what makes a LAN secure. We have to know what threat actors can do to break network security. And we also need to know how to stop them. So in this video, we will be focused on explaining how to use endpoint security to mitigate attack and to explain how the access control is used to authenticate LAN endpoints and devices. We will identify layer 2 vulnerabilities. We will explain how MAC address table attack compromises LAN security. And then we will explain how LAN attacks compromise LAN security. And in the first video about security, we will be focused on endpoint security and access control. So let's dive in. In the news, we will be able to often hear attacks on enterprise networks. If we simply search the internet for the latest network attacks, we will be able to find up-to-date information on current attacks. And these attacks will involve one of the distributed denial of service, which is a coordinated attack from many devices that are called zombies, with the intention of degrading or halting public access to an organization website and resources. We have even attacks as a data breach, which is an attack in an organization data service or hosts that are compromised to steal confidential information. And we have even attacks with malware. These attacks on organization hosts that are infected with malicious software that cause a variety of problems. For example, here in this figure, we have ransomware such as WannaCry, which encrypts the data on a host and lock access to it until a ransom is paid. Various network security devices are required to protect the network perimeter from outside access. These devices could include a virtual private network enabled router, a next generation firewall, and a network access control device, where a VPN enabled router provides a security connection to remote users' access across a public network and into the enterprise network. The VPN services can be integrated into the firewall. We have also the next generation firewall. These firewalls provide stateful packet inspection, application visibility and control, a next generation intrusion prevention system, advanced malware protection, and the website filtering. And as for the network access control device, this includes authentication, authorization, and accounting services. In larger enterprise, these services might be incorporated into an appliance that can manage access policies across a wide variety of users and devices. The Cisco Identity Service Engine is an example of the network access control device. LAN devices such as switches, wireless LAN controllers, and other access point devices interconnect at endpoint. Most of these devices are susceptible to the LAN-related attacks and are covered here in this video. Many attacks can also originate from inside the network. If an internal host is infiltrated, it can become a starting point for a threat actor to gain access to critical system devices such as servers and sensitive data. Endpoints are hosts which commonly consist of laptop, desktop, servers, and IP phone, as well as employee-owned devices that are typically referred to bring your own devices. Endpoints are particularly susceptible to malware threat-related attacks that originate through email or web browsing. These endpoints have typically used traditional host-based security features such as antivirus or anti-malware, host-based firewall, and host-based intrusion prevention system. However, today endpoints are best protected by a combination of network access control device, host-based advanced malware protection software, and email security appliance, and a web security appliance. Advanced malware protection products include endpoint solutions such as Cisco Advanced Malware Protection for Endpoint. And as you can see in this figure is a simple topology representing all network security devices and endpoint solution that we just mentioned. As about the Cisco email security appliance. Remember that the context security appliance include fine-grained control over email and web browsing for an organization users. According to the Cisco Talos Intelligence Group, in June 2019, 85% of all email sent was spam. Phishing attacks are particularly virulent from spam. Recall that a phishing attack entices the user to click a link or open an attachment. Spear phishing targets high-profile employees or executives that may have elevated login credentials. This is particularly successful in today's environment where, according to the SENS Institute, 95 of all attacks on enterprise network are the result of successful spear phishing attack. The Cisco Email Security Appliance is a device that is designed to monitor simple mail transfer protocol. This device is constantly updated by real-time feed from the Cisco Talos, which detect and correlates threats and solutions by using a worldwide database monitoring system. This threat intelligence data is pulled by Cisco Email Security Appliance every 3 to 5 minutes. There are some of these functions of this appliance, which is they block known threats, they remediate against steal malware that evaded initial detection, they discard email with bad links, as they are shown here in this figure, they block access to newly infected sites, and they encrypt contact into outgoing email to prevent the data loss. And as you can see here in this figure, there is a threat actor that is trying to send a phishing attack to an important host of the network. The firewall forward all email to email security appliance. This device analyzes the emails, logs it, and if it is a malware, will discard it. We have even the Cisco Web Security Appliance. This appliance is mitigation technology for web-based threats. It helps organizations address the challenge of security and controlling web traffic. This device combines advanced malware protection, application visibility, and control, acceptable use policy controls, and reporting. The Cisco Web Security Appliance provides complete control over how users access the Internet. Certain features and applications such as chat, messaging, video, and audio can be allowed, restricted with time and bandwidth limits, or blocked according to the organization requirements. The Web Security Appliance can perform blacklisting for the website. They will do website filtering, malware scanning, and website categorization, web application filtering, and encrypting and decrypting the web traffic. Here in this figure we have when we mention the network security devices, we highlighted that the network access control device provides AAA service, which means authentication, authorization, and accounting services. Many types of authentication can be performed on network devices. Each method offers varying level of security. The simplest method of remote access authentication is to configure a login and password combination on console, VTUI lines, and aux port, as shown here in this example. The method is the easiest to implement, but it's also the weakest and least secure. This method provides no accountability and the password is sent in plain text. Anyone with a password can gain entry to the device. The security shell is more secure from remote access because it requires a username and password, both of which are encrypted during transmission. The username and password can be authenticated by the local database method, and it provides more accountability because the username is recorded when your user logs in. And here we have an example that illustrates the security shell and local database method of remote access. This method has some limitation also because user counts must be configured locally on each device, and in a large enterprise environment with multiple routers and switches to manage, it can take time to implement and change local database on each device. The local database configuration provides a fallback authentication method. For example, what if the administrator forgot the username and password for the device? With no backup method available for the authentication, password recovery becomes the only option. Better solution is to have all devices refer to the same database as username and password from a certain central server. So the AAA components are authentication, authorization, and accounting. The AAA concept is similar to using a credit card as it is shown here in this figure. The credit card identifies who can use it, how much that user can spend, and keeps an account of what items or services that user purchased. The AAA provides the primary framework to set up access control on a network device. The authentication, authorization, and accounting is a way to control who is permitted to access network, which is authenticate, what they can do while they are in the network, authorized, and to audit what actions they performed while accessing the network, which is accounting. So let's see each of those A's from the AAA in particular. So we will continue with authentication. We have local and server-based that are two common methods of implementing the AAA authentication. At the local A authentication, this stores username and password locally in a network device such as a Cisco router. Users authenticate against the local database as it is shown here in this figure, where we have a local AA and is idle for small network. Here the client establishes a connection with the router. The AAA router prompts the user for a username and password. The router authenticates the username and password using the local database, and the user is provided access to the network based on the information in the local database. And we have even the server-based AAA authentication. With this method, the router accesses a central AAA server as it is shown in this figure. The AAA server contains the username and password for all users. The router uses either the remote authentication dial-in user service or terminal access control system protocol to communicate with the AAA server. When there are multiple routers and switches, server-based is more appropriate, which means bigger and larger network. Here in this figure, we have the client that is trying to establish a connection with the router. The AAA router prompts the user for username and password. The router authenticates the username and password using a AAA server. The user is provided access to the network based on the information that they got from the AAA remote server. And as for authorization, is automatic and does not require user to perform additional steps after authentication. Authorization governs what user can and cannot do on the network after they are authenticated. Authorization uses a set of attributes that describe the user access to the network. These attributes are used by the AAA server to determine privileges and restrictions for that user, as it is shown here in this figure. Which means that when a user has been authenticated, a session is established between the router and the AAA server. The router requests authorization from AAA server for the client request service. The AAA server returns a pass or fail response for authorization. And as for the accounting, they collect and reports usage data. This data can be used for such purpose as auditing or billing. The collected data might include the start and stop connection time, executes commands, number of packets, and number of bytes. A primary use of accounting is to combine it with the AAA authentication. The AAA server keeps detailed logs of exactly what the authenticated user does on the device as it is shown here in this figure. This includes all access and configuration commands issued by the user. The log contains numerous data fields, including the username, the date and time, and the actual command that was entered by the user. This information is useful when troubleshooting devices. It also provides evidence for when individuals perform malicious attacks. As you can see in the figure, we have a user that has been authenticated. The AA accounting process generates a start message to begin the accounting process. When the user finishes, a stop message is recorded and the accounting process ends. And then we have the last standard, which stands for 802.1x, which is a port-based access control and authentication protocol. This protocol restricts authorized workstation from connection to a LAN through publicly accessible with switch ports. The authentication servers authenticate each workstation that is connected to a switch port before making available any service offered by the switch or the LAN. And here we have a figure with the 8021 export-based authentication, where the devices in the network have specific roles. The client, which is the sub-applicant, is a device that running with the 802.1x compliant client software, which is available for wired or wireless devices. Then we have a switch, which is the authenticator. The switch here acts as an intermediary between the client and the authentication server. It requests identifying information from the client, verifies that information with the authentication server, and relies a response to the client. Another device that could act as an authenticator is a wireless access point. And then the last one is the authentication server. This server validates the identity of the client and notifies the switch or wireless access point for that client if it is or not authorized to access the LAN and switch services. So this is for the first material about the LAN security concept, and then we will continue to the second video about layer 2 security threat, MAC address table attack, and LAN attacks. Till to the next session, do not forget to subscribe to this channel if you are new, and if you like the video, share it with your friends. See you soon.